The National Academy of Sciences just a couple of years ago came out with a report in which they actually addressed this question, and they looked at what you could do for $500 million a year, what you could do for $100 million a year, what you could do for 50. I would say on the basis of that, if we are just looking primarily at detection and characterization, that I think we would want to be spending upwards of $100 million a year. If we are looking, as I think we must as well, at mitigation, then you would have to include the costs of carrying out the President's goal of visiting an asteroid by 2025. Various estimates have been put forward of the cost of doing that, but it almost certainly would be in the range of $2 billion or more spread over the period between now and 2025.
Thank you. General Shelton.
Yes, sir. In my case, we're talking about geosynchronous orbit into the surface of the planet. So just that part of space that we are responsible for, probably $200 or $300 million a year-ish is what we're talking about, developing better sensors that are more sensitive to the space debris population that is growing, sensors that allow us to take better, to better catalog the activity that's there and characterize it. As threats continue to grow in space, both adversarial threats as well as environmental threats, we need to be able to characterize that much better than we have the capability to do today. So I'd say that $200 to $300 million range is what we're talking about.
Good. Administrator Bolden.
Sir, the only thing I will add, because Dr. Holdren pretty much answered it there, is I want to reemphasize, because we have identified 95% of those objects that are a kilometer and above, and we have seen none that are on a collision trajectory with Earth, this is not an issue that we should worry about in the near term. However, as I said, the President has laid out a plan, and I would say that's a very good start. We have a lot of work to do, but the funding that is presently laid out in the President's budget is sufficient to get us there incrementally. We just have to move that plan forward. So you can't stop. That's my point.
All right. Now, tell us what kind of costs we would be facing if we spent nothing. It can be a worst-case scenario or a not-so-bad case scenario, but just the likely costs we'd face if we did nothing. Let's start with you, Dr. Holdren.
This is a very tough question because there are different ways to present these things. If you take the expected value of the damage in terms of loss of human life, integrated over a very long period of time, it comes out that the estimated loss of life from asteroid impacts is only about 100 per year. That compares with 1 million per year for malaria. It compares with 5 million per year for tobacco. So it doesn't look like a very big threat. But of course, that is not really a meaningful way to present a risk of this character, where you're talking about a low probability of a very big disaster. And in those sorts of situations, we tend to invest in insurance to reduce the likelihood of a disaster we would regard as intolerable. If you say, how big is the disaster? If you're talking about a 10-kilometer asteroid of the sort that exterminated the dinosaurs, what is the value of all of civilization? It's a very big number, but is it meaningful as a number which you then divide by the 65 million year return time? I think we just can't get at it that way.
General Shelton, the cost of a worst-case scenario.
Well, again, from a DoD perspective, we would not be able to characterize the traffic on orbit. We would not be able to avoid collisions on orbit. We would not be able to detect adversary activity on orbit. And our dependence on space, by the way, not only for our way of life, but also for military operations, is very high. So we would sacrifice that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.